Hi, welcome to the Along Podcast. I'm Tracy, a baby boomer.
And I'm Sierra, a millennial.
On this show, we're not afraid to talk about age and how it changes things from wellness to lifestyle to relationships and, well, just life. So come along with us today as we talk about living solo versus isolation. So, Sierra,
yes.
I have to tell you about this article I found in The Atlantic. It was the cover story, and it's called The Antisocial Century. And it's about how we're choosing excessive solitude over social interaction. So the writer, his name is Derek Thompson, starts the article where he's in a restaurant with his family. They're eating dinner, and he looks around and he sees no one dining in the restaurant. But then he looks up and he sees the counter is filled with takeout bags. And all these people are streaming in to pick up the bags. And then it hit him that this is the gist of his article, that we're preferring to do takeout over going out. And he says it's become the fabric of our lives, this whole notion of being antisocial. So, and the downside, of course, there are lots of downsides of being antisocial. I mean, the isolation and the health issues and depression and all of this. But Sierra, what do you think about it? And do you prefer takeout to going out?
I prefer to go out, but to be 100% honest with you, I don't go out that often. I just, oddly enough, am one of those people that cooks at home like 7 days a week. I personally think my cooking is great. So.
And you know what? I'll second that.
Thank you. But yeah, I definitely prefer going out if I'm going to eat something that's not my own cooking, going out as opposed to bringing it back home. I love people watching too. And
yeah,
I may
be
a little bit of, a weird person for that, but I love even just going to a restaurant by myself and just watching people. So I find it to be entertaining, and that's like where I get my kicks, but I get it why people don't want to go out anymore. I think COVID really changed our mindset and made people feel like, well, why would I want to leave my comfortable home if I can have the experience of the good food and also be on my couch and watch a show? I don't have to leave. I get it. I understand the comfortability. I also love being with my dog, but I do think it's good and healthy for you to get out.
We can't forget about Gus.
Oh, yeah, my dog, Gus.
Yeah, it is interesting because what Derek Thompson says in this article is that we've just fallen into this. It's like a habit. It's the fabric of our society now. And he also said this, the surprising thing is it's not just the pandemic. The pandemic definitely had an effect.
Right.
But he said it happened before the pandemic for the obvious reason, technology.
For sure. I mean, we live in Los Angeles and you see all those little robots. I live in West Hollywood in particular. That's where they started popping up, was West Hollywood, because it's a very walkable area. And now I feel like I'll see like 4 on the road at one time.
You know what? That is such a good point. I forgot about those robots and how, so it's like everything has changed.
Yeah.
And yet the problem is this unhealthy for us to be in this antisocial mode?
Well, I don't know if I would call it antisocial. I would call it more anti-interactive. We are we're finding the path of least resistance with technology. And a lot of what that means is taking out any sort of like human interaction. It's a very transactional thing, right? So you see those little robots, you basically just go down, you scan the QR code, you take it, and that's it. Like
that's how it works.
That's how it works. You order it on your phone, like whether it's like Uber Eats or there's like, I'm sure there's like other services that have it because I've seen a couple different brands around, but like Uber Eats or whatever it is, you order it online. You never have to make a phone call. And then they bring your food. They send you a little alert when it's on its way. You can track your little robot, and then it comes up to your front door and you just scan the thing and you take it and the robot just goes on its merry little way. There's no human interaction at all involved.
And as an aside, I have to say those robots have names, and it's just funny. It's like it's just another. It's okay. Here's what it is for me. we're being antisocial, but there's something in that when you see the robots going by that I feel like I want to talk to them because they acknowledge you. So that makes the point that we still are social, like you said. It's not really antisocial, it's anti-interactive.
Yeah, and the thing is like it's much more comfortable doing it with a robot because the robot's not going to like try and make an awkward side conversation with you. You know what I mean?
For now.
Yeah, it's like there's not going to be like there's just I don't know. I don't have to like put on a face for a robot, but I still do. I agree with you. The names actually help me see them more as like human or lifelike. I constantly like especially in West Hollywood all the time, it's me and my dog walking and they'll kind of like stop because that's what they do. They just stop anytime they think that they're approaching something.
Yeah.
And I'll stop and I'll like tell my dog, come on, we got to move out of the way for the robot. Come here. And it's like I am trying to make way so the robot can do its job. As opposed to just being like, you move around me.
Exactly.
Why am I thinking that?
But that just, and you know what? That is the point probably that we still crave being social.
Yeah.
So now in the midst of this, there's so many of us living solo. And in my generation, baby boomers, there's 10 million female women baby boomers living alone. And there's... From the statistics I found, it's like 15% of millennials live alone. So there's like this trend to live alone. It's different than what he's talking about is this choosing excessive solitude. Living alone actually can be healthy, believe it or not, for women. Joe Dispenza, he's the lecturer, writer, and he's done a lot of study on the brain health of living alone for women. And what happens is it creates a rewiring of the brain where it creates these neural networks, these new neural pathways that make your brain function on a higher level. That's pretty wild when you think about it.
I'm curious if that is because it's like we're taking on the role of everything if we're living alone as opposed to like splitting the work or splitting the effort if you don't. Is that what it is? Okay,
yeah.
Interesting.
And the fact in what he's talking about too is that we're not always seeking validation when you live alone. Mm-hmm. You just sort of have to do your own self-soothing. And in that, it creates confidence and independence and all this good stuff. So I just think it's super interesting that we have this antisocial century, and yet we have these women thriving living solo.
Yeah. I think that, first of all, women are a lot better at being alone than men. I think that out there.
And I do think that
maybe that's a big generalization.
But I do think that's really interesting, and I think that's why. So how do you feel? Like, do you feel good living solo?
I do. I've always been a really independent person, though. Yeah. Although, I know quite a few of my female friends who are the opposite, who really thrive off of having someone around. All of the women in my family are very independent and are very good at like self-soothing or like entertaining themselves too. I always joke with people like I'm the funnest person I know because just me and my dog in my house. I could do that for like 3 weeks by myself. It doesn't matter. I've done it before, but I just don't necessarily need like a person with me all the time. Now, granted, I do have a dog though, and I do talk to my dog. So I kind of treat my dog as a person. So you could say I live alone, but there's Gus. So.
I can't wait to do that episode.
I know.
There's so much to talk about, and Gus will be the star.
Yeah, exactly.
But I get why you would have a dog. I haven't ever had a pet living alone other than being a kid.
Yeah.
I have a hummingbird, but that's a wild beast.
Yep.
Who lives on my balcony, but I like name him Rick. I like having him there. So it's like, I think about this a lot, and I think about all my women friends who live alone because most of my women friends do that are my age. And it's not because they're widow, one is, or even divorced. A lot of us have chosen to live that way, and we're kind of happy and content. And I don't know, is that a good thing? Are we being antisocial, or is it an unhealthy thing? We see how good it is for the brain.
Yeah. I do think that my experience is that as you get older, it gets harder to then bring someone in to your life because you're like, I know exactly how I like things. And now I have to bend to whatever your preference is. It gets harder the longer you keep up this
That's true.
thing. So I do think that women are probably better at it because we're natural caretakers of ourselves.
Yeah.
Men are not always like that. And again, these are like gross generalizations. So not all men and not all women. But I do think that women have a tendency to be able to both nurture themselves however they need to, but then also when they put their minds to it, they can do the stuff that would quote unquote normally be a man's job. I got a drill. I can build things.
DIY.
Yeah, I know how to take care of some stuff. I've killed bugs, so that's pretty much all you need if you're going to live alone.
I mean, there is a downside, but I think there's more for women. There's more of an upside because the women that feel very dependent on men, like they can't be alone, because that's the other end of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. That obviously can be a problem because you'll just be willing to be in a toxic relationship.
Yeah, or they'll just always be somebody that moves from relationship to relationship.
And
I've had plenty
monogamous.
of friends like that. Yeah.
You know what's funny though, because I've been living alone for so long. Mm-hmm. When I go visit friends, I've noticed that it's harder to do that now. It's so weird.
It's hard to be in their space. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
And I think they may feel that too.
Yeah.
But because like when I was in my 20s, I didn't feel that way. It's like, who cares? We all, hang out together for however long. So it does change. Well, do you think living solo, you can live solo and you can have a good social life?
Yes. But I think it really depends on the type of person. Like I'm a very extroverted person, so I have no problem going out and making friends. I don't mind going and sitting and having a meal by myself at a restaurant. I'm totally fine with that. But if you're someone who's more introverted and you live alone, and especially, I think of LA, I know everybody on this block in West Hollywood, mostly because I have a dog. And so like you kind of get some social time there and you get like a little culture. In New York, I didn't really know anybody on my block, a couple of people. So it also kind of depends on like what environment you're in. If you're living in New York City and you're an introvert and you live alone and most people don't talk to their neighbors in New York, then like it's probably can feel very isolating.
I think it's interesting that it's a growing trend. Living alone continues to grow. And I think, living alone as you age is a whole different ballgame, though. I have to say, and I hate to admit it because I think of myself as ageless, but I know I'm not. I think that's a whole different thing. And obviously, as you get older, it's the thing you have to build community. And obviously, just as an aside, health issues and aging and living alone that's another whole challenge, and that's a big challenge.
Yeah.
So if you're lucky enough not to have that situation, we have to make an effort. And the more I think about it, I mean, it's kind of like the Golden Girls syndrome, even though I don't consider myself a golden girl, but you've got to build a community. And I talk to my friends about this all the time, how important it is to create community and not wait for community to come to you. Yeah.
And it's funny you say that because my grandmother is in her late 70s. All of her friends are around the same age, some of them like in their 80s and a few of them in their early 70s. But she used to be, do you know what a snowbird is?
Yes.
Okay. So
absolutely.
She used to be a snowbird. For anybody who doesn't know what a snowbird is somebody who generally lives in a cold weather climate, but during the summer months, they stay in the quote unquote cold weather climate where it's like, decently warm. And in the winter months, they migrate to a warmer climate. So like Arizona is a very popular place, Texas, New Mexico, Florida, there's a lot of snowbirds in that area. So there tend to be temporary residences, or sometimes they'll get like a secondary home in that area and they go back and forth. So my grandmother used to be a snowbird probably from the time that I was like in high school or so, maybe even in middle school, up until she moved down there permanently when I was in high school to Arizona. And it used to be that a bunch of her friends were snowbirds and they had like this little snowbird community in one part of Arizona. And then slowly but surely they all sort of retired down there and just became full-time residents there. And now it's so interesting because obviously some of them have passed, but there's still the core community. So my grandmother lives alone, but she lives across the street from like 3 of her best friends. And they see each other every day. Whenever I come and stay with her, there's a rotating cast of at least 5 people that come through her door between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. Every morning. They just come and say hello. There's the one guy named Doug who walks his dog every morning and comes and says hello and then gets the paper because he doesn't get the paper because he just reads my grandmother's paper after she's finished with it. Like there's a whole thing that's happening here. And it's so cute. And so that is a great example of building a community, of living alone, having your independence, but they have created their own little community there. And some of them weren't part of the core friend group at the beginning, but sort of like came into the friend group. And over time, it's sort of changed. And it's just really cool to see.
That, because I think about that all the time, and I've even written a story idea about this and about women and how would we do that? How, obviously finances and all that, but like your grandmother, that it can work like that, where you have your setup and you become friends mainly with all the people that are around you, or you do one of those boxable. I see those boxable ads for the tiny homes. They're called boxables now. Is
that what they call them?
They're called. This is another thing. So these things are cropping up. You sort of. It's like having it's like a trailer park, but not a trailer park. Yeah. Like that idea.
Like the manufactured home sort of situation plopped on a little,
So I always think about
That's kind of what this is, to be 100% honest. It's like some of it is trailer and some of it, like my grandmother's was originally a trailer and then she built around the trailer, taxes. But she built around the trailer to make it into like an actual home.
Because I wonder with you guys, you millennials, you youngins, I mean, you guys aren't really thinking about that yet because I wasn't either.
I am. I've already made a plan. Yeah.
Okay. What's your plan?
Well, I've already talked to my friend Tia about this.
Really?
Yeah. We're going to buy land across from each other.
I would love.
We're going to have like 20 dogs.
So I would love to hear from people about what they want to do, because I bet you this is going to evolve. And as we continue to get older, and especially with everyone living alone, with the millennials continuing to live alone and getting older. And then, of course, my generation, because honestly, my mom lives in a very nice senior facility, but it's not really something I would want to do. It works for her and she's happy being there and she's in her 90s.
Sure.
So she needs to be there. And it's just, I look at that and think, well, is that something I would want to do? And I just don't want to live. I don't want to do that.
Well, it's also like, it's interesting because there's a certain point where you get to an age where you can't live on your own, right? It's just, there's unfortunately, as much as, I hate to admit it, there's going to be a point where my grandmother is not going to be able to do that anymore, where it's just not going to be safe for her to be alone all the time. Right. And I hope that time is, a solid like 10, 15 years from now, but who knows, right? And I think that inevitably we're all going to get there, but it is a really important question, I think, to ask yourself, especially if you're somebody who doesn't have kids, who's not going to move into a house with your children. That being in an assisted living facility is going to be like probably the answer.
Oh, I know. I forgot about that part.
I know.
Because all my friends, and I have a lot of friends that I've grown up with, and we just all happen to be in this similar lifestyle. We live all across the country, and we're all child free except for a couple. And it's like, that's a big piece of this.
Yeah.
It's like, then you really do have to create community and just work at it. But what about men? Should we ask our male in the group right now?
Sure.
I'd love to know what you think, Greg, about men living alone, and do they do okay living alone?
I mean, probably depends on the guy, I would think, because, I live alone, and I think that it can be pretty addictive, really, but is it like actually a good thing for long-term mental health? Probably not, is what I would say. I think the peace that it brings, and where you don't have to like answer to anyone or be, you can kind of come and go and do it. It's like, if there's dishes that need to be washed, it's your responsibility. There's no one, you know, like that kind of thing. Like, I mean, I've had roommates in the past and all that. And yeah, that stuff can be tough, but then you always kind of have like someone to socialize with and things going on. So I think long term it's tough because men, we're a little more independent, a little less likely to speak out about emotions and things like that. So like the longer you go down, if you don't really work at maintaining friendships and making sure you're doing some things to socialize yourself, I think it could get pretty lonely and, you know, depressing, honestly.
And I think also women are generally better at creating community than men are a lot of times. Like we bond, maybe not as like, I don't know about your experience, but I feel like women are more likely to like talk to other women.
Yeah.
Not necessarily be close friends with them, but just little social interactions where I think you're right. Men kind of operate in life in a little bit more of an independent solo way, not so like, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Like that sort of thing.
I mean, what ideas are there for us to not be too isolated? Because what Derek talks about in the antisocial century is he says we have to track how much time we're spending in our solitude, because solitude is a good thing. Like he talks about the excessive solitude, but solitude can be a perfectly fine thing. But he said that we lose track of how little we interact face to face because of how we're interacting. And he said you could all of a sudden it's days, weeks, whatever, and you're not interacting. So it's like you almost have to have an awareness of how often you really get together with people and make the effort, because I think we get burnt out. We don't want to. It's like, oh God, I've been texting and Zooming and all day long, and I don't feel like interacting.
Yeah. Well, I also think all of that texting and Zoom and all of that gives us a false sense of actually having an interaction.
Yeah.
So we think we're already, you know, exhausted from it as if we had a social interaction, but we didn't. And I feel like I may be an outlier here, probably because I have a dog and I physically go outside and, you know, dogs interact together. And then before you know it, you're interacting with the other person, the other owner or something like that. I feel like I have daily face-to-face interaction because I'm constantly going outside. But I could imagine if you don't have a dog, if you live alone, if you're in a job where it's a remote job, there's probably a lot of times where you don't see someone or have an actual face-to-face communication with another person right in front of you for a while. And it's probably easier, but yeah, there is something about missing a human presence. I made this comment to you before, but like I can really tell when someone lives alone and doesn't have an animal, because when you see them, they're like like when they first see another living human, they don't mean to do this, but they're just like, and I think that energy has to transfer somewhere to another living being when you've like been alone. But if somebody has an animal, you can always tell, because they're a little bit more like chill when they like see someone, because I'm pretty sure they've been talking to their animal the entire time.
And that, you know what, and yeah, it's so funny because now I think, okay, don't do that anymore. Now I'm monitoring myself.
I don't mind.
But it is funny how, wow. I mean, you can not talk to anybody all day long.
Yeah.
Because it's not like we're doing phone calls. Even phone calls people don't want to do.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, we'd rather text. So, I mean.
Or email.
I think, where does this all go? Where does this all lead? We obviously, the whole reason for interacting is to be happier, right? You want to have you want to feel happy and vibrant and excited about life. And the more you're isolated, if you isolate, which is different than living alone, I mean, it can be the same, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think first of all, it's a balance, right? Because I think on the flip side, there are too many people that don't ever sit with themselves alone. You know what I mean? And really sit with themselves,
Exactly.
because you can be living alone and, you know, still have that remote job and no dog or whatever. But if you're sitting there on social media the whole time, not actually like sitting with your thoughts or anything, that's not really being alone in a purposeful way. And so I do think there's like a benefit to that, right? Just like meditation, which we know Greg does and loves.
Which I
Two
do.
thumbs
I love
up.
it.
Greg loves
Shout
it.
out TM.
Yeah. But I still can't do that. But I do see the benefit of like actually sitting alone with your thoughts. But there's not, I don't think that even that is healthy to do, because I think if you sit alone with your thoughts too much, you find yourself just like in a tunnel vision. We need to bounce energy off of other people. And it helps. It's best if it's face to face. That's what I find. And I think even most introverts would benefit from that.
And I think we have, and I have some ideas about how
Yeah.
we can,
Let's hear them.
how we can not do too much down alone time, solitude. What I did, and this is years ago, I created a ritual, and I have my balcony. I call it my terrace because I like to think of it as my terrace. And so I just have friends over, and then I started calling it terrace time. And to this day, Greg knows because he was one of the first participants. Has become a thing.
Yeah.
And when I say it, I don't know, it's such because it's not that big of a deal. We have wine, we have snacks, whatever, but just calling it that seems to make it more fun, and,
Yeah.
and it makes people want to interact. So I feel like what I try to do is come up with reasons to get together, because I can fall into that. Oh, I don't want to really, bother. But if you come up with a ritual, that can help.
For sure. Finding a way to make it fun and to make it something that is like an activity. Like one of my friends, she's really good at just deciding that she's going to do something, and she'll text a bunch of people and being like, I'm going to go do this on this day. Does anybody want to come? She's just really good at, and it's not like drinking. It's not like she's like, oh, I'm going to this bar. Sometimes she'll like do like one of those like big blow up, like adult jumping park things, or she hosts a lot of game nights, and she just basically says,
game
this is
nights.
my plan. Let me know if you want to come. And she texts it to probably like 50 people. And eventually she gets like a couple of people each time. And it's a really good tactic, especially if you're someone that's like, well, I don't want being social to have to mean that I have to go to a bar or have to go spend
Right.
money. You don't have to. You can find ways to be like, hey, I'm going to go sit at this park on this Saturday, or I'm going to go do this hike. Does anybody want to join? Like, just throwing it out there. I know it takes a little vulnerability to just, say that, but I do think it's a really cool way of approaching it and making an effort to go out there and do something and try something new and talk to people and continually encourage other people to have that face-to-face time too.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, she's really good at it. I really admire her for that. The other thing, my personal tip, aside from getting a dog, because getting a dog does help you be more social, I'm not going to lie. But the other thing that I noticed is that, I don't know if you've noticed this too, Tracy, whenever you go to like a store and people are like grocery shopping or in Target or something like that, and everybody has headphones on,
Yes.
take your headphones out, because headphones are a clear sign of don't talk to me.
Oh my God.
And so, it
true.
drives me nuts when I am in Target and people are just in their headphones and they're just like doing their shopping. They're out in public, but they do not want to socialize. And that's fine if you really, really don't want to socialize. But if you're kind of feeling like I should probably socialize a little bit more, take your headphones out. Make eye contact. It's the basics, people. Make eye contact with other people. They will
Yeah.
smile at you, and just smile back and be polite. That is enough interaction. You don't have to say anything.
I love that, and I forgot all about that. And when I go running, I wear my I just wear the little earbuds. I
Yeah.
don't have the big headphones. But I do notice that people don't say hi. If I don't have them in, then people say hi.
Yeah.
And so you're right.
Yeah.
That is such an important thing. And we don't realize I see everybody with the white, what do you call those?
AirPods.
AirPods.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Everybody's wearing those, so that's another thing. So
I know. And I very intentionally too, especially like when I'm walking my dog, because I do want to listen to a podcast when I'm walking my dog. I've tried doing no audio or whatever. It's really boring. So I get it. But if I'm listening to a podcast or something like that, but if I'm approaching and she's sniffing like with another dog, I take an earpiece out because I make a conscious effort to let the other owner know that like you can interact with me. I'm not just going to ignore you while our dogs, sniff each other out. So I don't know. I would say take your AirPods out or make an effort that when you are approaching the checkout stand or like you're standing next to someone or something like that, you take at least one out because it shows that you're open to communication.
I love that. I think that's great advice. And I think just to sum it all up, I think it's about striking a balance. So in terms of living solo versus isolation, we can be isolated, we can live solo, we can be social living solo. It's all these combinations of things. And I think it is always striking a balance. And just don't let yourself just get too many days into never having a human interaction.
Yeah, I think being conscious of it is a really good thing.
Exactly.
I guess I never thought about it again because I have a dog and I physically have to go outside and take care of her needs. But I would say even if you're somebody that doesn't have a dog, like going to a group fitness class, that is a great way to have to force yourself to be social.
Another great thing. Yes, indeed. Well, I love all these ideas, and we'll see how long we're going to be the antisocial century. See what Derek Thompson thinks.
I don't know that it's going to get better. I think we're going to have to continue to work on it.
I think that's it. No, I think that is
a little scary.
Absolutely so true. Well, I just think there's a lot to think about, and I think, everybody come over for terrace time. I think we should do a terrace time or any other ritual that we can think of, and game night.
Yes, a game night. I have a ton of games. I've gotten really into games lately, so we should do a game night.
Okay,
sure.
I'll do a game night.
Yeah,
I will make
Greg's
the effort.
invited.
Okay, good. Thanks for coming along today. You can check us out at Along Podcast on TikTok or Instagram, and give us a follow on whatever platform you're listening to or watching today. See you next time.